Void Miner, Seed of Change, Part 4. Chapter 15. The Awakening Below. The tunnel ended without warning. One step they were walking through the familiar skin of the mountain, black rock laced with dull veins of Arkyn, and the next there was only light. The ceiling vanished. The floor fell away into emptiness, spanned by a single bridge of translucent crystal. Far below, a river of blue fire wound through the dark like an artery of some sleeping giant. Risa's breath caught. "By the Forge Father's bones!" Tovin's voice was almost a prayer. "The Hot Forge." The bridge curved outward to a suspended platform. In the center hung the thing itself, a colossal crystalline heart, half stone, half light, its surface clouded by dust of ages. Slow, irregular pulses crawled through it, each one too weak to reach the walls. For all its size, it looked fragile, dying mid-breath. Crix crouched low, pupils wide, claws trembling against the glassy floor. "Skritdra Vendra," he whispered, a goblin word that smelled of fear and awe both. Grask stood stone still beside him. "Thal Draken Aknal," he rumbled. Then, in halting common, added, "Old fire, still dreams." Kaelric took a step forward. The hum beneath his feet deepened. Every vein in the floor brightened to match his heartbeat. "Don't," Risa warned, axe half raised. "That thing's dead metal and ghost songs. Let it lie." "It's not dead," Kaelric said. The words weren't, though. They rose from somewhere lower, where the hum lived. "It's waiting." Tovin moved closer, eyes darting over the suspicious structure. "The lattice is intact. The crystal's self-healing. It's only dormant." "Aye, well," Risa muttered, "there's a reason it chose to sleep." Kaelric didn't hear her. The hammer in his hand had begun to vibrate again. Softly, but steadily. The same rhythm as the weak light inside the forge. He lifted it, and the glow within the heart forge flared in answer. Faint, but real. Risa swore. "You see that? It's answering him." The orc's eyes narrowed. "Vendrakvelen," he said. Kaelric caught the shape of it. "Bound to you." Tovin hesitated. It may be recognizing the seed's frequency, or his bloodline. Kaelric reached the end of the bridge. A narrow lip of stone circled the heart's base like a cradle. The glow washed over his skin, warm and unthreatening, like standing too near a forge on a winter morning. He rested his free hand against the surface. The world stopped. The pulse that came wasn't sound. It was being. Light shot outward from the contact point, racing across the heart's surface in branching veins. Every bridge, every wall, every buried conduit lit at once. The chasm filled with color. Risa staggered back, covering her face. "Tovin, tell me this ain't about to blow." The elf's reply was lost in the thunder of awakening stone. The floor shook, dust streaming from the unseen heights. Molten air pressed against them in waves. Kaelric should have pulled away, but the hammer in his other hand locked him in place. Energy flooded through it, through him, burning and freezing at once. It didn't hurt. It belonged. The same voice he'd heard in the vision spoke again, clearer than ever. "Forge anew." The pulse leapt outward. The bridges above sang like struck crystal. Their tones merged into a single note that hung in the air long after the light dimmed. Then silence. Risa was the first to speak, voice shaking. "You alive, lad?" Kaelric opened his eyes. The heart forge no longer flickered. Its glow beat slow and strong, steady as his pulse. The air was warm, but calm. Every tremor gone. Tovin stared upward. "The lattice is realigned. The whole network is breathing again." Grask placed a hand against the floor. Vaelindra, then, Kaelric answered quietly in the same tongue before realizing it. Vendra. Risa looked from one to the other. Wonderful. Now he's talking orc without thinking. Crix peered over the edge, eyes wide at the rhythmic glow. Skrit dravendrak uk. Kaelric smiled faintly. He says it's alive. The hum settled in a slow, comforting rhythm. For the first time since they'd entered the mountain, the air smelled of life instead of dust. The heart forge had awakened, and the world above, though none of them knew it yet, had begun to stir in answer. For a long time, no one spoke. Only the sound of the forge's pulse filled the cavern, a slow, rolling rhythm that seemed to echo inside their own chests. Risa was the first to break the silence. That's it, then. You woke the mountain. Now we shut it back down before it decides to eat us alive. Tovin turned, still half entranced. You can't shut down something that lives. Look at it, Risa. It isn't a machine. It's breathing. She gave a snort that carried more fear than humor. So is the dragon that roasted my granda's mine, elf. Breathing don't make it safe. Grask stood a pace behind them, watching the glowing heart with a reverence that unsettled her. Valdrak Aknor Nal. Old fire, strong again. Kaelric rubbed the edge of the hammer's head with his thumb. The metal was warm, but not from heat. From inside. He's right, he said quietly. It isn't angry. It's grateful. Risa stared at him. Aye, you suddenly know the mountain's interpreter now. He didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the rhythmic glow beneath the crystal bridges. Every pulse sent a shiver through the air. The same kind of vibration he felt when his heart raced too fast after a climb. Only now, the rhythm was steady, patient, enormous. Tovin tilted his head, listening. Do you hear the undertone? It's harmonizing with something below the audible range. The Arkyn lattice must extend past this cavern. The veins, Kaelric murmured. All of them. Crix's ears twitched at the sound of that word. Skrikra Vendra. All light, he squeaked, dancing from foot to foot. Buzz wake, buzz wake. Risa groaned. I liked it better when the wee one talked nonsense. He isn't wrong, Tovin said. If the heart forge has resumed full function, the Arkyn flow is repressurizing through every dormant vein across Altara. Meaning, Risa pressed. Meaning, Kaelric said, still watching the light. The world's about to remember it's alive. A tremor rippled through the bridge, soft, almost polite, then stronger. Dust drifted from the upper vaults. The pulse quickened, just for a moment, then steadied again, like a creature testing its muscles after a long sleep. Risa clutched the rail. That ain't polite. That's warning. Tovin shook his head. No, adjustment. Kaelric felt the vibration crawling up through his boots into his bones. The same resonance threaded through his veins. He could taste metal again, but sweeter this time, like copper burned into sunlight. The hammer pulsed in unison with the heart below. He whispered, It's not just waking up. It's listening. Grask turned toward them. Drumar Vendrak. Kaelric met his gaze. Yes, together we made this happen. He said it in Urkthrall without realizing it until the orc's eyes widened slightly in approval. Risa crossed her arms. Aye, well, we're all proud. Now let's talk about leaving before that thing decides to test how well we bounce. Kaelric tore his eyes away from the glow with visible effort. I can't. Not yet. Why not? He looked at her, expression tight. Because it's connected. If I leave now, it'll lose balance again. Tovin studied him for a long moment. The resonance you're sharing? It's stabilizing the heart forge. If you break contact, the harmonic loop might collapse. Risa threw up her hands. So we're tied to this place now. Grand? Grask's rumble rolled like distant thunder. Vendra, stay. Kaelric nodded. Just until it settles. They waited. Minutes passed, or hours. The forge's pulse slowed by fractions. The bridges cooled, their light dimming from blinding white to gentle blue. The air became easier to breathe. Even Risa stopped fidgeting. When she finally spoke again, it was quieter. If it don't kill us, it's something worth saying, Crix nodded vigorously. Shin, bright, pretty. No die. Risa smirked. Aye, wee one. That's a start. Kaelric allowed himself a thin smile, but didn't lower the hammer. He could still feel the link tugging inside his chest. Not painful, but insistent. Somewhere beyond the stone, beyond even the mountain, another echo answered. The image of his father's ship flashed unbidden in his mind. The Dust Widow, silent on its cradle, waiting. He whispered, He'll know. Tovin glanced over. Who? My father, Kaelric said. He'll feel it through the Arkyn lines. The widow's veins are the same as these. The elf nodded slowly. Then this will be the first light he's seen from the forge since your birth. The ground trembled again. Not violently this time, but deep, distant. Risa frowned. Tell me that's not the roof falling in. Kaelric shook his head. That's not here. That's far above. Tovin stepped closer to the edge, listening. A relay response. The pulse reached the surface. Grask's nostrils flared. World wakes. Crix pointed upward. Shin, bright, climb sky. Kaelric stared into the air above them where the light climbed unseen. He felt the pulse ripple outward like a signal sent through water, each wave doubling until it vanished beyond sense. He didn't smile. He only breathed, slow and steady. It's begun. Risa looked from him to the forge and back again. You say that like it's good news. Kaelric lowered the hammer until it rested against the crystal floor. It's change. Good or not, we'll see. The forge's next heartbeat answered with a sound like a sigh. The light dimmed again, settling into a calm rhythm. Not weak, not frantic. Balanced, alive. Risa leaned her back against a pillar, arms folded. Well, if the mountain ain't fallen on us yet, maybe we've earned a drink when we get topside. Kaelric managed a weary grin. You can have mine too. Tovin gave a quiet chuckle. Let's get there first. The five of them turned to leave the platform, crossing the crystal bridge that now gleamed steadily underfoot. Behind them, the heart forge pulsed once more, slower than before. The heartbeat of a world rediscovered. And far above, unseen beyond miles of stone, the first Arkyn veins running through Althera flickered to life, tracing rivers of blue light across the sleeping land. Chapter 16. Resonance. The first tremor hit before dawn reached the surface. At first, it was subtle. A ripple through the bridge beneath them, a quiver in the newly lit veins. But then came the sound. A low, resonant hum that deepened until the entire cavern thrummed like the inside of a great bell. The heart forge pulsed faster, no longer calm, its glow sharp and erratic. Risa steadied herself against a crystal brace. You said it was balanced, boy. Kaelric gritted his teeth. It was. Tovin was already analyzing, eyes darting across the shifting veins of light. The lattice is overcompensating. The energy is seeking equilibrium, but lacks a venting node. Speak plain, Risa snapped. He means it's choking on its own breath, Kaelric shouted. Grask moved instinctively toward the bridge's anchoring joint. Massive shoulders braced against the trembling crystal. Drumthen Kal, hold the line. Crix darted to a nearby vent shaft, pressing an ear to the crackling scene. Skrick craw! Burn! Bright! Climb! Climb fast! Blue fire burst upward through the fissure, licking the ceiling in a spray of light. Kaelric raised the hammer, and every pulse in the chamber sank to its hum. He could feel it, the forge's heartbeat running through him now. His veins shimmered faintly beneath his skin, light coursing with every heartbeat. Risa froze mid-step. Kaelric, you're glowing. I know. You ain't supposed to know that. The hammer vibrated so hard it blurred in his grip. Kaelric closed his eyes and let the rhythm guide him. Beneath the panic and the sound, there was a pattern, a deeper tone threading through the chaos. The forge wasn't just alive. It was speaking. And it was in pain. He reached out again, palm open, not touching the surface, but letting the hum meet his hand. The light obeyed, coiling toward his fingers like threads of molten silk. Each one carried an image, flashes too quick to comprehend. Cities floating above the clouds, their foundations built on crystal spires that pulsed with Arkyn light. Rivers of liquid metal, turning turbines fast enough to shift mountains. A people of many forms, dwarfs, orcs, elves, and others, working in perfect rhythm beneath a sky painted with aurora. Then fire. The images shattered, towers collapsing, the sky cracking open, the world itself folding under its own brilliance. Power beyond control. The hum turned to a scream. Kaelric fell to his knees, the hammer clanging beside him. Tovin grabbed his shoulders. What did you see? Kaelric's voice came out ragged. Not what we built. What we broke. They had all this once, and they destroyed it. Risa swung her axe into the stone to anchor herself as another tremor hit. Well, we'll join him if we don't stop this. The hot forge is reliving it, Tovin realized. The awakening triggered memory loops. The Arkyn flows trying to repeat the cycle. So it's dreaming itself to death, Risa growled. Grand. Any ideas? Kaelric forced himself upright, the glow beneath his skin pulsing in sync with the forge's rhythm. We have to ground it again, like before. Tovin nodded quickly. The resonance fields must match the harmonic of the lattice. You'll have to stabilize it directly. Kaelric looked at him, eyes reflecting blue light. With what? The hammer's already full. Then use yourself, Tovin said. The light knows you. Let it echo through your breath. That's what it's waiting for. Risa glared. He's 15. And he's the only one with a neural interface capable of synchronizing. Kaelric didn't wait for permission. He pressed his palm flat to the bridge. The light surged through him, knocking the breath from his lungs. But he held on. The forge's rhythm faltered, then realigned. 2 beats becoming 1. The light brightened, steady this time. Risa shouted, It's working! Not yet, Kaelric gritted. It's listening. For a moment, he wasn't in the cavern at all. He was inside the forge, within its crystal veins, where power flowed like blood. He saw himself as light, every thought trailing in luminous arcs that bent and intertwined with others. He saw Risa's defiance as orange heat, Tovin's logic as silver, Grask's loyalty as deep crimson. Crix was green fire, quick, alive, unpredictable. All of them were notes in the same chord. Together we forge. The voice echoed through him, but now it wasn't a command. It was understanding. Kaelric opened his eyes. The tremors had stopped. The forge beat evenly again. The glow in his veins dimmed to a faint shimmer before fading altogether. He staggered back. Risa caught his arm before he fell. You trying to die for it, lad? He gave a faint smile. No, trying to listen. Tovin lowered his staff, still watching the now steady light. You didn't just stabilize it, you completed the circuit. The forge recognizes you as part of itself now. Kaelric didn't answer. His gaze lingered on the living heart. The hum had changed. Not gone, just gentler. As if the forge, at last, could breathe again. Far above, unseen beneath Stonebrook's dawn, the first surface veins flared bright blue and gold, the Arkyn pulse spreading across the valley. And in the Dust Widow's cradle, half buried in frost and dust, a single relay light blinked for the first time in 15 years. The silence after the tremor was worse than the quake itself. No one spoke for several breaths, not until the faint glow along the bridge began to fade from blinding blue to a deep, steady azure. Only then did the sound return, the low whisper of wind through open caverns and the faraway hiss of molten veins cooling. Risa broke the stillness first. "If you ever tell me again you can handle it, lad, I'll remind you of this day and shove that glowing hammer down your throat." Kaelric didn't answer right away. His pulse still beat in time with the forge, and every throb of light beneath his skin reminded him that part of him now belonged to this place. He exhaled slowly. "I didn't mean to go that deep." Tovin crouched nearby, studying the light patterns crawling across the forge's surface. "You did what no scholar, no priest, no smith ever has. Stabilized a living Arkyn core through neural synchronization." Risa rolls her eyes. "Aye, and how many of those live long enough to brag?" "None," Tovin said simply. The dwarf muttered under her breath, "That's what I was afraid of." Grask approached the heart forge itself, his heavy boots echoing on the crystalline platform. The glow reflected on his tusks, softening their visual menace. "Velindra Ventra," he murmured, words Kaelric somehow understood. "The fire knows your name." Kaelric blinked, the meaning clear before he could think. He replied quietly in rough Urkthal, "Vendrakor? And I know its heart." Grask looked up sharply, studying him. Then the orc's grim mouth curved into what might have been approval. "Strong tongue for Skyborn." "Learning fast," Kaelric said, still startled by how easy the words formed. Crix chattered something high-pitched and fast, claws tapping his chest, ears flicking. Risa frowned. "You get any of that, elf?" Tovin shook his head. "Not a word." Kaelric hesitated. "I think he asked if I can hear them now. The words." Risa snorted. "Aye, well, good for you, 'cause the rest of us are still deaf." Tovin didn't look up from his notes. He may be perceiving harmonic translation through the Arkyn field. The forge is teaching him. The scholar traced a symbol near the edge of the platform, where molten veins curved toward the outer tunnels. "This energy isn't limited to the hot forge. It's propagating outward, each conduit leading to a secondary relay." Kaelric frowned. "How many?" "Dozens, maybe hundreds. If these activated simultaneously," he trailed off, eyes widening, "it could reawaken every Arkyn structure on Altera." Risa groaned. "So we're back to the world blowing itself apart? Wonderful." "Not if it's guided," Tovin countered. "The forge isn't raging, it's organizing. Look at the rhythm. Every pulse matches his heartbeat." Kaelric shook his head. "That can't last. I can't hold the world together." "No," Tovin said, "but you can start it." The mountain groaned again, not from collapse this time, but from deep below. The sound rolled through the floor, through their bones, until even the light in the heart forge seemed to vibrate with its tone. It wasn't violent. It was music. Grask tilted his head. "Draken song," he said softly. Kaelric caught the sense. Old World sings back. Risa eyed them both. Well, I don't know what he said, but I don't like the sound of it. Kaelric took a step closer to the edge of the chasm. Far below, molten blue veins pulsed in perfect time, no longer chaotic. He could almost feel them stretching outward, spreading beneath the mountain like roots seeking light. Risa, he said, what if the mountain's not breaking? What if it's healing? She stared at him. You mean to tell me the quake's a blessing? Maybe it's a birth, he said quietly. Tovin was already scribbling notes across a page of vellum, his face caught between terror and fascination. If this is a reinitialization sequence, the Heartforge is rewriting its pattern. It's building something new. Perhaps correcting the flaw that destroyed the first civilization. And that'd be what exactly? Risa asked. Division, the elf said simply. They built their wonders together, then turned them into boundaries. The Forge remembers unity. It's trying to reforge it. Kaelric met his eyes. Then maybe that's why it answered me. Risa kicked at a loose shard of crystal. Or it just likes meddling boys who touch things they shouldn't. Kaelric laughed under his breath. You sound like my father. Good, she muttered. Maybe you listen to me better than him. They spent the next hour examining the chamber, marking the paths of light as they split into the walls and tunnels beyond. Risa identified structural weak points, while Tovin mapped the harmonic pulses. Grask and Crix scouted nearby vents, reporting that the heat was dropping, proof that the forge was stabilizing. For once, no one argued. When they regrouped at the bridge, Kaelric noted the subtle rhythm beneath their movements. Hammer strikes, footsteps, the rustle of gear. It all matched the pulse of the forge. They were already part of its rhythm without realizing it. He looked at them then, dwarf, elf, orc, goblin, and felt something shift in his chest. They didn't understand one another yet, not fully, but for the first time, they weren't enemies. Maybe this is what it wants, he said aloud, to see us working together again. Risa snorted. I just wanted to stop rumbling. Small steps, Kaelric said with a grin. The forge's pulse dimmed slightly, and for a moment, Kaelric thought it was failing again. But then he felt it, a branching thread rising upward, seeking connection. The surface, he whispered. It's reaching for something up there. Tovin turned. What could it possibly... Then he stopped, eyes widening. The relays. The apex points. Kaelric nodded slowly. It's calling to them. Risa rubbed her temples. Aye, well, next you'll tell me it wants us to follow. Kaelric looked back toward the light. No, he said. It needs us to. They packed in silence, the enormity of the task settling like dust around them. The path ahead was clear, and impossibly dangerous, but none of them spoke against it. They left the Heartforge chamber. Kaelric paused one last time at the bridge. The great crystal heart pulsed softly, each beat slower than the last. No longer frantic, just steady, alive. He rested a hand on the railing. Thank you, he whispered. Crix muttered a string of skitter-speak syllables that clicked like pebbles in a jar. Kaelric nodded without thinking. He says it's time to go. Risa blinked. How in the deep did you? I just understood. The dwarf stared at him a long moment, uneasy. That ain't normal. Kaelric gave a tired smile. Neither's the world any more. The light flared once, casting their shadows long across the tunnel walls. Then we'd best not keep a world waiting, Risa muttered. They turned toward the ascending tunnels, following the echo of the forge's pulse, a path carved by light and rhythm both. Behind them, The heart forge beat once more, slow, steady, eternal. Chapter 17. The Bridge of Light. The mountain didn't sleep after the awakening. It breathed. Every wall in the great chamber pulsed with slow rhythm, light swelling through the veins as if the stone itself had lungs. The heart forge hung at the center of that rhythm, its glow no longer a steady beat, but a living tide that rose and fell in quiet power. Kaelric stood nearest the bridge's edge, the hammer balanced across his palms. He could still feel the forge's pulse behind his ribs, matching his heartbeat measure for measure. Each surge made his veins shimmer faintly beneath his skin, silver and blue threads like liquid metal tracing his forearms. The others watched but said nothing. Even Risa, who never lacked for words, stayed silent. Then the light changed. A tone, deep and harmonic, rolled through the cavern. The air itself seemed to solidify, twisting into glowing filaments that stretched from the heart forge towards the outer tunnel. One became two, then four, until bridges of pure Arkyn arced across the chasm, glowing paths suspended in the dark. Risa stumbled back a step, eyes wide. "By the Forge Father's breath! It's making roads out of light!" Tovin's voice trembled with awe. "Not roads, conduits. It's linking itself to the relay veins." The bridge pulsed brighter, spanning outward until the cavern shone like a web of glass fire. The hum quickened, no longer calm, but urgent. Grask braced his shoulder against the nearest span. The light flared under his touch, shivering like liquid held in tension. "Strong," he rumbled, "but not yet still." Kaelric felt the meaning through tone alone. "We can steady it," he said. "All of us." The hum deepened again. One of the spans wavered, its edge fracturing into shards of light. A storm of radiant dust sprayed into the chasm below. "Kaelric," Tovin shouted over the roar. "The lattice is destabilizing. The connections aren't anchored." Risa dropped to one knee, pulling her chisel and chalks from her satchel. "Then we anchor them, the way dwarves always have." She carved into the platform's base, each strike sending sparks of blue fire into the air. The runes she cut began to glow, matching the bridge's pulse. Tovin joined her, his voice rising in melodic cadence. The old Elven harmonic phrases, half prayer, half command, flowed from his lips and wrapped around the runes like invisible threads. Risa's hammer strikes and Tovin's chant merged, the rhythm forging new balance. Grask heaved against the shifting span, his muscles knotting with strain. "Hold for blood," he barked. Kaelric understood. "I'm here," he called back, running up to the bridge's edge. Crix was already moving. The little goblin scrambled along the glowing arc, claws finding invisible purchase. "Sheen, bright twist," he cried, jabbing a copper shard into a fracture where light bled. Sparks sprayed outward, and the bridge steadied slightly. Risa looked up from her rune line, sweat streaking the soot on her face. "That wee fool's mending the cracks." "Then help him," Kaelric yelled. He slammed the hammer's head onto the crystal floor, and the heart forge answered. A torrent of energy rushed up through the bridge, blue light surging through him. His body should have burned, but the power recognized him. The veins along his arms blazed brighter, his eyes reflecting the same hue. For the first time, he felt every heartbeat in the forge, every whisper of arcing current, and he was part of it. Risa's runes flared gold. Tovin's voice rose into harmony. The orc's growl became a deep countertone, steady as a drum beat. Crix's sharp chirps rattled across the bridge in rhythm. Together, their sound and strikes formed a single chord that filled the cavern, a living hymn of stone, fire, and breath. Kaelric lifted the hammer high. The air bent around it, light folding inward until the head burned white. He drove it downward, striking the bridge's heart. The sound was not thunder. It was music. Every bridge blazed at once, the chasm filled with radiant mist. Kaelric's vision burst into colors he had no name for. All that light, he saw them all, not as separate beings, but as threads of the same design. The dwarf's craft, the elf's song, the orc's strength, the goblin's cunning, his own resonance, all distinct notes weaving one unity. The forge spoke again, not with words, but with feeling. Together we forge. The phrase vibrated through his bones, through the hammer, through the bridges themselves. The third trial marker fully awoke, every language folding into one meaning. The connection stretched outward, past stone, past air, into the Arkyn veins that laced the world. The surge hit like a heartbeat, the size of continents. Kaelric gasped, eyes flaring with mirrored blue-white light. His body arced, caught between agony and transcendence. The others watched helplessly as veins of Arkyn light traced across his skin, up his neck and into his eyes. Then, silence. He stood still, breathing hard, his outline glowing faintly. The hammer in his hand no longer hummed. It sang, a single pure tone fading into stillness. Risa lowered her arm slowly. "Lad, ye all right?" Kaelric opened his eyes. They were luminous, reflecting the forge's light even in shadow. "I'm not hurt." Tovin approached cautiously. "Your resonance field has stabilized. The lattice accepts your frequency." Risa frowned. "Meanin'?" "He's part of it now," Tovin said. "Mind, body, and spirit, all synchronized with the Arkyn flow." Kaelric looked down at his hands. Thin veins of silver light still glimmered beneath his skin, fading but never vanishing. His heartbeat thrummed with the same rhythm as the world. He whispered, "It's alive in me." Across the chasm, the bridge steadied into perfect symmetry. The heart forge's pulse slowed to a deep, steady beat. The harmonic hum filled the air, not menacing, not wild, but purposeful. Grask let out a low rumble of satisfaction. "World listens again." Kaelric nodded back. "Then we'll listen back." Grix grinned, his teeth catching the glow. "Shin, bright place, for now." Risa leaned on her axe, exhausted. "If this is a peace, I'd hate to see war." Kaelric smiled faintly, still feeling the forge's heartbeat in his veins. He didn't need to answer. The light said everything. The light faded slowly, settling over the chamber like snowfall. Where the bridge had once shimmered in violent motion, now it shone in calm reflection. Each span a smooth arc of solid crystal, humming with a low harmonic tone. The chasm below no longer raged. It breathed, its molten heart pulsing with quiet grace. Kaelric stood in the middle of it all, the hammer loose in his grip. The air around him still flickered faintly, threads of residual light dancing across his skin. When he exhaled, the breath carried a trace of silver mist. The world had left its mark on him, inside and out. Risa whistled softly. "Never seen anything like that, not even in the old horse." Tovin was staring, wide-eyed. "The Arkyn has accepted him as a conduit." "Speak plain, elf," Risa said, though her tone lacked its usual bite. Tovin pointed toward Kaelric's chest. "The resonant field isn't just external. His entire system is in harmonic balance with the heart forge. Every neural signal, every pulse of blood, it's all synchronized to the world's energy network." Risa frowned. "So if the mountain sneezes, He'll catch a cold? More like, if the mountain dies, so will he, Tovin murmured. Kaelric finally turned to face them. It's not that simple. I can feel it now. The heart forge, the veins, the bridges, they're alive. They're not trying to destroy anything. They're trying to wake the world. Grask's deep voice rumbled behind them. Then world must wake gentle. Kaelric gave a tired smile. That's the plan. Crix scampered along the nearest bridge, his claws clinking on the glassy surface. Shin, bright sleep slow now, he chirped, tapping the bridge's edge. Dream soft, yes? Risa blinked. You making sense of that? Kaelric tilted his head, listening. The goblin's tone carried more than words. It resonated, a pattern of rhythm and pitch that his mind translated effortlessly. He says the forge is resting, dreaming again, but peacefully. Right, she muttered. I'll take your word for it. Tovin leaned close, still studying Kaelric's face. When you speak of feeling, what exactly do you mean? Kaelric looked upward. It's like hearing the world breathe. I can sense the flow of energy through the veins, even the faintest threads. It's not sight or sound, it's knowing. Empathic resonance, Tovin whispered. Risa squinted. Sounds like a fancy way to say he's got himself stuck between sense and spirit. Exactly, Tovin said. Kaelric half smiled. Don't worry, I can still hear you fine. The bridge trembled lightly beneath him. Not danger this time, just movement. The glowing arcs were extending, stretching toward distant tunnels high above. One after another, they anchored into the cavern walls with crystalline precision. The relays, Tovin said in awe. They're connecting. Kaelric raised the hammer and watched as each pulse of light from its head mirrored the new connections above. They're forming a network, he murmured, like veins to a heart. Risa frowned. Aye, but veins carry blood out and back in. Which way's this flowing? Kaelric concentrated, sensing the rhythm beneath his skin. Both? Both? It's breathing, he said softly, in and out. The world's learning to move again. The last bridge anchored with a resounding hum that rippled through the cavern. For a heartbeat, everything went still. Then the light flared once, brilliant and pure. The pulse swept through every surface, illuminating even the highest vaults. The chamber sang, not with voices, but with harmony. Every race, every craft, every song, woven together in sound and color. It wasn't chaotic, it was whole. Kaelric dropped to one knee, overwhelmed. The hammer's song poured through him, filling every nerve with living fire. The reflections along his veins brightened, solidifying into faint glowing tracery that would never fade again. The forging was done. Risa stepped forward carefully. Kaelric? He looked up, and for an instant, his eyes reflected not the heart forge's blue, but pure white light, balanced, steady, eternal. Risa took a step back. Lad, your eyes? I know. Grask inclined his head, reverent. Arkyn blood, true forge born. Crix nodded eagerly. Shin, bright, make new light. Skyborn, no longer lost. Risa sighed. Aye, we've lost him to the poets. But even she smiled faintly, relief softening her usual iron. When the light finally dimmed to a soft pulse, Kaelric rose, testing his balance. The hammer was warm in his hand, alive but calm. The air in the cavern felt lighter, almost expectant. Tovin looked toward the far tunnels. The apex relays are active now. If the forge's signal spreads, the entire planet will soon feel the pulse. Risa rubbed her forehead. Aye, well, let's hope the world's in the mood for waking up nice. Kaelric started toward the distant glow. If it's calling, we'll answer. Grask nodded. Then we go to the mountain's crown. They stood together at the edge of the Heartforge's light, the first true alliance of their kind in living memory. Dwarf and elf, orc and goblin, human and Arkyn alike. The air between them shimmered faintly, no longer divided by mistrust or fear, but connected by resonance. The place that now lived within them all. Kaelric lifted the hammer. Its glow answered, gentle and sure. The bridges will hold, he said. They were built to carry more than light. Risa grunted. Aye? And what's that, lad? Hope, he said. As they began their climb toward the tunnels above, the forge pulsed one last time behind them. The bridges shimmered in farewell, then dimmed to a steady glow that would never fade. Far above, unseen in the surface sky, the first tendrils of Arkyn light reached the clouds. The pulse spread outward, north, east, and west, lighting the veins that swept beneath every mountain and valley. Deep in the Dust Widow's hangar, 1,000 miles away, a faint blue spark raced across the hull plating before settling near the old relay ports. The ship stirred, waiting for its heartbeat to return. Chapter 18. The Pulse. The mountain didn't shake this time. It breathed. A low, steady thrum passed through every layer of rock, soft but insistent. Not violent, not even alarming, just alive. Dust drifted from the upper crevices, glowing faintly blue before settling like starlight. The Heartforge pulsed again, slower now, deliberate, as though finding its rhythm after a long sleep. Kaelric felt the echo first in his chest. The beat matched his heartbeat exactly 1 for 1. He stood with his palm pressed to the bridge rail, eyes half closed, listening to the world's hum travel up through bone and blood. It's spreading, Risa murmured, her voice rough with awe. You feel that? Tobin laid a hand on the wall. Arkyn veins beneath every mountain. The network is active again. He sounded more like a priest than a scholar. The Heartforge sent its song outward. The planet, it's listening. Grask turned toward the glow that rippled along the tunnel walls. Fire under all ground, warm again. Crix tilted his head, eyes wide. World hum sweet, yes. No bite, no burn. Kaelric smiled faintly, understanding the goblin's delight. It's peace, he said softly. The world's pulse is steady. Far above, in the valley beyond the Greyspines, the first signs appeared. Arkyn veins that had lain dormant for centuries began to shimmer under the soil. Lines of cold blue traced along riverbeds, beneath roots and through stones no living hand had touched. The light climbed the walls of Stonebrook's forge houses, threading itself through dwarven engravings long forgotten. Every rune flared to life for a heartbeat, as if inhaling after an age of silence. At the shrine of the Three Faces, elven and dwarven votive fires burned higher, blue overtaking gold. The bells above the council hall rang without wind. The air shimmered faintly. Then the Dust Widow woke. Inside the hangar, Arg was bent over a console when he heard it, a deep vibration running through the floor plates. He froze. Every light in the bay flickered once, then steadied into a pale, even glow. Blue lines crawled along the ship's hull seams like veins, refilling with blood. One by one, external plates shifted, groaning softly as systems long cold came alive. Kara appeared in the hatchway, breathless. Arg? I know. He turned slowly toward the ship. The main reactor cradle lit from within, with that same gentle blue spreading like sunrise through metal. For the first time in 15 years, the Widow hummed. The intercom clicked. A dry, feminine voice emerged from the static, sharp, sarcastic, and unmistakable. System integrity check complete. Wow, Arg, you're looking younger for 75. Arg closed his eyes, half laughing. Hello, Iona. 15 years offline and not even a hello back. You wound me. Kara stepped closer to the glowing console. How? Detected planetary Arkyn surge. Cross-referenced residual harmonics. One match found. Familial signature traced. Probability of relation 99.99%. Kara's breath caught. Kaelric. Arg nodded slowly. He did this. Clarification, Iona replied. He completed it. Outside the hangar, villagers were gathering on the ridges. The valley glowed like a river of glass, every stone vein alive. Dwarfs whispered of the prime forge returning. Elves prayed for Astra's breath. From the eastern foothills, shape moved through the frost mist. Orc hunters, lean and half-starved, wrapped in furs, gone gray with age. They'd followed the light for 2 nights across broken passes, drawn not by conquest, but by hunger and the promise of warmth. Their land had turned to ash years ago. The hunt had failed. The fire pits died. Now the mountains burned blue again. And even their shamans, the Drumva, whispered that the world's heart had forgiven them. They stood on the ridges, wary of elven arrows and dwarven stone guards, but did not advance. One lifted a hand toward the glow and murmured in Urkthrall, Carvelendrum. The flame returns to stone. None expected welcome. They only wished to see the light that had awoken their gods. Inside, Arg ran his hand over the hull's newly lit surface. 15 years, he said quietly. She never stopped waiting. Kara touched his shoulder. Neither did he. The light brightened until it filled the hangar completely, reflections running through every tool and rail. When it faded, the Widow's engines whispered a single low pulse. Core integrity nominal. Pilot overdue. Iona's tone softened. Would you like me to open a log, Arg? He hesitated. Not yet. We'll wait for him. Beneath the mountain, Kaelric felt the pulse return. Faint at first, then rising like a heartbeat answered. He smiled without meaning to. It heard me, he whispered. Tovin looked puzzled. What did? The ship, Kaelric said. The one my father built his life around. The forge reached it. Risa frowned. You're saying the mountain just talked to the ship? Kaelric nodded, gaze distant. They were always connected. The same kind of light runs through both. He taught me that. Tovin exhaled slowly, realization dawning. Then the heart forge isn't merely power, it's memory. It remembers it was made to build. The floor vibrated once more, stronger now. The entire cavern breathed with the pulse. In, out, calm. Far tunnels lit in sequence, like the veins of some colossal living thing that rediscovered its body. Risa wiped sweat from her brow. So, lad, now that you've woken the world, what's next? Kaelric studied the bridges still glowing across the chasm. Now I'll test if we deserve to keep it awake. Crix gave a sharp giggle. Shin bright, make loud dreams. Loud dreams wake monsters, yes? Kaelric's eyes narrowed slightly. Let's hope not. The forge's hum deepened, not threatening, but full. The Arkyn had awakened completely. The pulse didn't fade. It spread. It moved through the forges, through the tunnels, through the bones of the mountain itself. Each wave felt less like a tremor and more like a breath, as if the world beneath them was learning to inhale again. Kaelric could feel its reach now. Every heartbeat in the group echoed faintly within his mind. Risa's steady rhythm, Grask's deep thrum, Tovin's melodic cadence, Crix's nervous flutter. Their heartbeats and the forge's pulse were syncing. He didn't think it was coincidence. "Well, it's breathing again," Risa said softly, watching the light climb the tunnel walls. "And we're breathing with it." Tovin nodded, eyes bright with reflection. The Hunt Forge's rhythm is rebalancing everything within range. It's harmonizing matter itself. Grass grunted, the sound low and guttural. "Vardrakar, fire and flesh." Crix echoed, chirping. "Shin bright, sing same, yes?" Risa frowned. "Lad, are you making sense of that?" Kaelric looked up, still half entranced by the hum. "He said the fire's inside us, and Crix, he said we're singing the same tune." The dwarf blinked. "You understood that? Clear as words?" Kaelric hesitated. "It's not words anymore. It's tone, rhythm. The forge is tuning us." Tovin exhaled softly. "Then perhaps you are its bridge, Kaelric. Its translator." Risa's brow furrowed. "Aye. Seems the lad's voice is what keeps us talking past each other. It might be the only reason we're not swinging at ghosts." Kaelric smiled faintly. "Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's just teaching us all how to listen." The hum deepened. Threads of blue light spilled from the bridges, crossing the cavern like rivers suspended in air. Each pulse formed patterns that shimmered briefly, then vanished. Runic sequences too complex for even Tovin to read. "It's communicating," he whispered. "Every surge carries structure, pattern, and intent." Risa crossed her arms. "Meaning in what tongue?" Tovin shook his head. "None I know, but it's the same one the boy is speaking." Forge's energy climbed in pitch. A faint wind stirred. Impossible this deep underground. Kaelric closed his eyes. The sensation wasn't sound anymore. It was intent pressing at the edges of thought. Something vast and ancient leaned close, curious. It pulsed in feeling. Warmth, welcome, question. He whispered, "I'm here." The light flickered once, like a nod. Risa shifted uneasily. "Who are you talking to, lad?" Kaelric opened his eyes slowly. "Not sure yet, but I think it's listening." The energy began to slow, the hum settling into a steady rhythm, softer and even. The bridges stopped flickering. The runes dimmed to a calm blue glow. All around them, the Arkyn veins pulsed in harmony. Grask knelt beside one, running a scarred hand over the crystal. "World blood warm again. Home not dead." Risa watched him a long moment, then looked back to Kaelric. "Aye, if this keeps mending the land, maybe we'll all get a bit of home back." Kaelric smiled faintly. "That's what it's trying to do." Tovin studied him. "You're certain of that?" "I don't think it's speaking to me," Kaelric said. "I think it's speaking through us, through all of us." Risa huffed. "That's a fine thought, so long as it keeps the roof from falling on our heads." Crix giggled. "Skyborn sing, big now. No fall, no break." Kaelric chuckled quietly. "Let's hope you're right." The mountain's hum became a low, steady drone. Not silence, not noise, but the sound of something alive settling into rhythm. Kaelric could feel it in the marrow of his bones. He didn't know whether the Heart Forge had awoken the world or simply reminded it that it had a voice. But the difference no longer mattered. Every living thing above and below could now hear its pulse. Far above, the night sky rippled. Auroras twisted in perfect rhythm with the forge's beat, merging blue and green into one luminous river that stretched across the heavens. In the forests, frozen lakes cracked and thawed. Birds stirred, wolves howled, and deep beneath the ground, roots began to move again. Kaelric looked toward the tunnels leading upward. "It's reaching further every moment," he said. "I can feel it pulling toward something higher, maybe a relay." Tovin nodded slowly. "The apex. The old legends spoke of it." Risa gripped her pack straps. "Then we best be moving. If it's calling us upward, we'll answer, before the next quake decides for us." Kaelric glanced toward the glowing veins that ran along the walls, feeling their pulse in time with his own. "It's not calling us to see it," he said. "It's calling us to finish what it started." Grask rose, his massive frame outlined by the blue light. "Then climb we must." Crix twitched his ear. "Shin bright go high. Skyborn lead. We follow." Kaelric nodded once. "Let's move." The hum of the Heartforge steadied, deep and sure, echoing through the veins of the mountain. But beneath that calm pulse, Kaelric felt a second rhythm rising, slower, heavier, the sound of the earth straining to contain what it could no longer hold. He opened his eyes toward the tunnel above. "We need to move," he said quietly. "Now." Chapter 19. The Collapse. The hum beneath their feet turned uneven, once steady, now faltering, like a heartbeat skipping. The air thickened, the mountain was shifting again. Kaelric felt it first, the way a miner feels tension before the rock splits. Pressure built in his ears, and every sense sharpened until even the faintest creak carried meaning. The forge's calm rhythm fractured into two pulses, one deep and measured, the other wild and accelerating. "Move!" he shouted. The sound rolled down the tunnel, and they all reacted before thinking. Risa grabbed her pack. Tovin swung the lantern from its hook. Grask lifted Crix clear of the floor. The entire group was moving in an instant, as if they'd understood his tone before the words reached him. Behind them, the bridge they'd crossed cracked apart like glass. Light speared upward from the Heartforged chamber below, blue-white and blinding, forcing Kaelric to shield his eyes. "By the gods," Tovin breathed. "It's not stopping." "It's not meant to," Kaelric answered. "Go!" They ran. The tunnel curved upward through ancient stone, the walls trembling with each new tremor. Dust fell in ribbons of glittering blue where Arkyn veins splintered and rejoined, still pulsing faintly, as if alive. Risa led it first, reading the vibrations through her boots. "Left fork, then right path will drop you into the slag veins." Kaelric didn't question. He followed the dwarven rhythm of her steps, solid, certain. Every heartbeat of hers came through his awareness, like hammer strokes guiding him forward. When the tremor hit, it didn't feel like collapse. It felt like resistance. The mountain wasn't dying. It was shifting itself, pushing stone into new places, sealing others shut. The forges were remaking the bones of the world while they still ran inside. "Lad!" Risa shouted. "The air is changing. Pressure dropping." Kaelric reached the next turn and pressed a hand to the wall. The vibration there wasn't panic. It was direction. The pulse guided upward, toward thinner air and safety. He didn't know how he knew that, only that the pattern of tremors formed a rhythm he could read. "This way!" he called. The others didn't hesitate. Even Grask, who still distrusted every word in common, turned immediately when Kaelric's voice hit the air. The sound carried more than command. It carried understanding. The tunnel split again ahead, one route narrowed and steep, the other broad and glowing with unstable light. Molten veins bled across the wider path, dripping blue fire into cracks. "Which?" Risa barked. Kaelric pointed to the narrow pass. "The smaller one. It's steady." Tovin glanced at him. "You can tell?" Kaelric nodded, half breathless. "The sound of it. It's in tune. The other's off pitch." The elf's eyes widened in sudden comprehension. "You hear the harmony?" Risa gave a rough laugh as she shoved him forward. "Then keep listening, lad, 'cause the song's about to kill us if you're wrong." They squeezed through the narrow channel one by one. Grask's shoulders scraped the sides, stone splintering where his armor caught. Crick scurried ahead, vanishing into a venting shaft, his voice echoing back in skitter speak. "Path clear. Wind smells sweet. Up, up!" Risa frowned. "He's saying what I think." Kaelric grinned despite the heat. "He found air." Tovin blinked. "You understood him?" Kaelric hesitated. "I didn't translate. I felt it." The dwarf shot him a quick look. Well, feel faster, boy, 'cause this roof's about to come down." A blast of hot air burst through the passage, throwing dust and fragments in all directions. Kaelric ducked as a beam split above him, light searing through the fracture. Risa dragged him clear, coughing through the haze. Grask planted himself under the falling archway, holding it long enough for the others to pass. "Go!" the orc growled. "Stone heavy. Not killed Grask yet." Kaelric turned back to help him, but Grask barked a single word in Urkthrall, short, commanding. Kaelric didn't know the vocabulary, but the meaning slammed through the air like impact. "Trust me." Kaelric met his eyes, nodded once, and moved on. When they cleared the tunnel's bend, the mountain's heartbeat shifted again. The rhythm steadied, then surged. Kaelric stumbled, clutching his head as sound and pressure collided. Voices spilled into his awareness, layered and distant. Neither language nor song, but thoughts through tone. Not his companions' voices, the mountains. Every pulse carried intention. Rise, rise, rise. He staggered forward, still hearing it when he spoke. "It's not falling. It's pushing itself upward." Tovin frowned through the dust. "Then why does it sound like thunder?" "Because it's breaking what it used to be." They reached a junction where the tunnels widened again. Here, molten light pulled off liquid glass, refracting off stones until the entire space shimmered blue. The air felt lighter, thin and sharp. Kaelric's lungs burned with heavy breath, but he smiled through it. Risa whizzed behind him. "You find joy in near death, boy?" He shook his head. "No, just knowing we're close." "Close to what?" "The surface." The next tremor hit hard enough to knock them to their knees. Arkyn veins in the walls flared, spitting molten shards. Kaelric lifted his head, instinct guiding him. He didn't think. He spoke. "Hold!" The single word hit the air like a command carved into stone. For a heartbeat, the tremor slowed. Dust hung motionless in the blue light. Every sound around him fell into rhythm. Grask's breathing, Risa's heartbeat, the faint hum in the walls, all syncing with Kaelric's tone. Tovin stared at him. "How did you—" Kaelric exhaled slowly. The air around them shimmered faintly. It wasn't light. It was pressure, resonant and warm. An aura spread from him, invisible but undeniable, softening echoes and shaping sound. "I didn't stop it," he said. "It listened." For a few moments, no one moved. Even Grask's growl softened as the hum steadied. Crix tilted his head, blinking. "Skyborn seems safe now." Kaelric nodded once. "For now, but we can't linger." Risa hauled herself upright, eyeing him sidelong. "Remind me to buy you a pint, lad, if we live." Kaelric smiled faintly. "You'll owe me, too." They pressed on. The tunnel widened again, then curved upward toward the faint gray light, the promise of open air. Behind them, the deep roar of moving stone echoed like distant surf, fading, reshaping, never stopping. The mountain was no longer collapsing. It was changing. Kaelric could feel the heart forge stabilizing far below, its pulse syncing perfectly with his own. Each vibration through the sole of his boots matched his heartbeat. Every sound he heard found a place in its rhythm. He wasn't leading the way anymore. He was part of it. The incline grew steeper as they climbed, air thinning with each breath. The tremors lessened, not from distance, but from rhythm. The violent quakes became measured, deliberate. The mountain was breathing again. Kaelric slowed, listening. The sound beneath him wasn't chaos anymore. It was patterned, almost thoughtful. The world wasn't fighting to survive. It was reshaping itself, one heartbeat at a time. Behind them, the tunnels glowed brighter. Light poured upward through fissures like rivers of molten crystal. The blue radiance was no longer wild. It pulsed in unison with the hammer at Kaelric's side. Risa stopped, panting, hands braced on her knees. That sound. You hear it too, don't you? Kaelric nodded. It's slowing, not dying, settling. Tovin pressed his palm to the wall, eyes closing. The harmonic field is stabilizing. The forge isn't collapsing. It's redistributing the energy through the veins. Risa gave a breathless laugh. So the world's not ending then? Kaelric smiled faintly. No, it's starting over. A distant roar cut through the air. They turned in time to see the bridge far below collapse into the chasm, molten light bursting outward before fading into calm ripples. Grask stared down at the glowing abyss. Fire asleep again. Good. Not sleep, Kaelric murmured. Rest. The orc grunted approval, hoisting Crix higher onto his shoulder as the goblin chirped softly. Skyborn right. Fire no angry now. Tovin caught Kaelric's eye. You understand him clearly now, don't you? Kaelric hesitated. It's not hearing the words, it's feeling the meaning. Risa frowned. And we're feeling it too, lad. Your voice, the way you say things. It settles the noise, makes it clear. Like we all suddenly remember the same tongue. Kaelric looked back toward the depths. Maybe that's what it was meant for. They reached another chamber where the tunnel ceiling had fallen inward, blocking the main path. Light filtered through cracks in the rock above, pale daylight mixing with the Arkyn's glow. Risa scanned the blockage, gauging its weight. Aye, we can't shift to that in time. Grask stepped forward. Can break small way. You show weak rock. Kaelric nodded, running his hand along the wall. The pulse in the stone vibrated faintly against his palm. There, he pointed to a thinner section. It's hollow behind this point. Grask slammed his shoulder into it once, twice. Stone cracked, dust filling the air. Risa joined with her pick, the blows syncing unconsciously with Kaelric's heartbeat. Every strike landed in perfect rhythm, like part of a song. Tovin murmured, Harmony, even in the breaking. After a final hit, the wall gave way, revealing a narrow fissure glowing faintly blue. Fresh air spilled through, cool and sharp. Up there, Kaelric called. The fissure widened enough for them to climb one by one. Risa went first, boots grinding against the shifting rock. Tovin followed, using his staff to anchor his balance. Grask boosted Crix up before hauling himself after, the mountain's low hum echoing every breath. Kaelric climbed last. Halfway up, a vibration rolled through the stone, deeper than before, slower. He paused, turning toward the glow below. The Heartforge's light filled the cavern again, dimmer now, but steady. The great chamber was no longer collapsing. Its molten veins had cooled into crystal arcs, forming bridges of light across the void. Suspended above the chasm, the forge itself pulsed like a living heart. He watched, mesmerized as its beat synchronized with his own. A single phrase resonated in the air, not as speech, but as vibration that reached straight into his mind. Rise, not fall. Kaelric's eyes widened. He whispered the words aloud, barely audible. Rise, not fall? Risa looked back down. What'd you say? He shook his head slowly. It's not destroying anything. It's lifting it. Then silence. The tremors ceased. Dust drifted down like snow, settling gently on their shoulders. The mountain exhaled one last time, a deep sigh through the cavern, and then it was still. Kaelric climbed the rest of the way and hauled himself into daylight. Cold wind hit his face, sharp and clean. For a moment, he could only breathe, staring out across the high ridges where dawn touched the snow caps in pale fire. Risa emerged behind him, coughing. Sweet stone and sky, wear out. Tovin climbed beside her, eyes reflecting the sunrise. The world survived. Grask lifted Crix onto the ledge, grinning wide. See, told you, small one. World's strong. Crix laughed, a high, rasping sound. World sings loud, make belly hurt. Risa chuckled weakly. That's one way to put it. Kaelric turned back toward the mountain mouth. The light spilling from within was softer now, fading from blinding blue to a deep, steady glow that pulsed like a heartbeat under the earth. Every few seconds, it beat once, slow, alive, enduring. He reached to his side. The hammer vibrated faintly against his palm, its surface warm. Lines of blue shimmered through the metal, steady in the rhythm with the world below. He lifted it slightly. You feel that? Tovin nodded. It's synchronized, the forge and the hammer. One pulse. Risa folded her arms. Then that means it's done, aye? Whatever it was doing down there. Kaelric stared at the glow a long moment before answering. No, not done. Just awake. The wind rose gently across the ridge, scattering the lingering dust. Below, the Greyspine peaks shimmered faintly with threads of blue light tracing through their veins, a heartbeat spreading outward from the heart forge itself. Every mountain in sight was pulsing faintly, breathing again. Kaelric smiled quietly, resting the hammer across his shoulder. It's not breaking apart, he said. It's waking up. The others followed his gaze as the rising sun struck the first peak, setting the world alight in hues of blue and gold. The end of Part 4 of Void Miner, Seed of Change.